So last night, I just finished the series Wayward, and to be honest at first, I just wanted to see it because Toni Collette was in it, and she's one of my favorite actors of all time. But by the finale, I knew I had to do an analysis because of how powerfully symbolic and thematic it all became. So after doing plenty of research on the messages, the real-life inspiration, the symbolism, and the ending, I feel like I have a lot of exciting insights to share with you. So to break this series down, we're going to use 3 themes. 1, troubled teenage dream, where we'll discuss the personal inspiration for the series, what Tall Pines represents for Alex, and the reason for the 2003 period setting. 2, cult of education, where we'll discuss Evelyn's psychology and history, the real 70s cult inspiration, the 4 phases at Tall Pines Academy, the hot seat, the mirror room, and whether Lila's sister was killed or not. And 3, false revolution, where we'll discuss the leap ritual, the in her mouth is a door chant, Laura's history, parents, new movement, and relationship with Evelyn, the croaking toad, Lila's fate, Evelyn seeing multiple doors, and the symbolic meaning of the 2 versions of the ending, and so much more. Hope you enjoy. Theme number 1, troubled teenage dream. The first thing I have to address is this series was created, produced, and co-written by Mae Martin, the actor who plays Alex. And it's crucial that I start off with that piece of information because this story and these characters are largely inspired by Mae's real life, mainly Mae's relationships, Mae's feelings, and Mae's personal experiences growing up. Much like the characters of Abby and Lila, Mae was also a troubled teen, caught up in drinking and drug addiction, dropping out of school, getting kicked out of the house, and eventually entering rehab. In an interview with Hollywood Reporter, Mae expands on the influences for the show. I wanted to write about adolescence and coming of age, and my best friend in my teens was sent to one of these troubled teen institutes, and when she came back, she had these very theatrical stories almost about the bizarre kind of therapy that they did. So I became interested in that industry and kind of put a genre on top of it. So ultimately, by writing characters like Abby, Lila, and our main character, Alex, Mae explores the deeper feelings of the troubled teen, the queer experience, and very importantly, one's longing for belonging in a world that can be misunderstanding, harsh, and sadly often unwelcoming. And by setting the series in a town and school like Tall Pines and Tall Pines Academy, Mae can use that to uncover some of the dark history behind many of these institutions in real life. History which we'll certainly investigate later on in this video. The town of Tall Pines is designed to represent the idyllic fantasy of family and community life. A small town with fresh forest air, generous neighbors, and a perfect wooden house with plenty of yard space for the child on the way. A town that has all the benefits of traditional family and community culture, while also having all the benefits of being very progressive and welcoming culturally. It's a dream that's almost too good to be true for someone like Alex, especially in a period this series is set in, 2003, where the world was even less familiar or understanding or welcoming to queer individuals and couples, and lacked much of the sensitivity toward teenage mental health that we have today. In an interview with Deadline, Mae expands on this. Alex is seduced by the charisma and so desperately wanting to fit in. There's a lot of optimism and hope. Tall Pines is a very progressive place, and the show is set in 2003. So I think for a queer couple, that's exciting. And then, of course, the price he pays is huge in this situation. And as Mae is hinting, there are some very bizarre and shocking truths to uncover about the town and academy of Tall Pines, which we need to discuss in theme number 2, cult of education. So of course, as viewers of the show, we all know Tall Pines isn't all it seems to be. Beneath this idyllic fantasy are these twisted methods of conditioning and sacrifice. So in the town of Tall Pines, you may notice there are no babies or young children. The reason why is because the entire population of the town is built out of students who have been committed to Tall Pines Academy and then graduated. When these troubled teens are enrolled, they go through a rigorous series of ritual-like exercises and practices, which eventually brainwash them into highly agreeable, peaceful adults who stay in Tall Pines to live the rest of their lives. And everyone in the town is in on it. Some become contributing members of society with careers like Dwayne, and some become staff at the academy, like Rebecca, also known as Rabbit. And in some rare cases, the student may become aware of the school's true intentions of brainwashing, so they try to escape, some successfully, some unsuccessfully. And the one in charge of this entire institution is our central antagonist, Evelyn Wade. Evelyn is the superintendent of Tall Pines Academy who has developed these highly intense methods of mental conditioning. In the end, turning these troubled teens into peacefully obedient adults programmed to earn Evelyn's approval. All throughout the press tour, Mae Martin and Toni Collette discuss Evelyn's character, qualities, and intentions, claiming she's always had good intentions, but went about it in the worst way. She's a complicated woman, a control freak, but ultimately thinks that she's altruistic in trying to help those in need. She's very domineering and has a real kind of intense presence. Her intentions are great, she just goes about everything in the wrong way. It's too extreme, it's too controlling. I think she does it because she is probably lonely. She's kind of at the top of the heap in the community, and she helps people in order to be appreciated. And it's very transactional and a bit sad. And we see in the show, Evelyn's practices are designed under this philosophy of radical honesty. When she speaks to her students and graduates, there's this highly supportive and nurturing tone and intention, yet also with this piercing undertone of relentless, brutal honesty. It's very backhanded. Simply with the word choice and tone, she's breaking you down in order to rebuild you in the way she wants and thinks is best. And that's really the method of the entire program of her school. Burrow, break, build, ascend. Those 4 phases of the Institute. And the school's specific exercises take on that same brutally honest breakdown and rebuild philosophy as well. And all of this information that we've discussed about Evelyn's character, intentions, and methods are Mae's commentary on these troubled teen institutions in the real world. And the history we learn about the series between Evelyn, the town, and the school is super closely tied with the real history of these kinds of institutes. Speaking with Screen Rant, Mae touches on this history. The origins of the troubled teen industry are self-help cults from the 70s. The central tenets, the core ideas, make a lot of sense. And then narcissism always creeps in and someone exploits people. And I'm interested in that. And you can see these parallels right away in how Evelyn was inspired by Weldon, who started a self-help cult in the 70s that she was recruited into. And to give another parallel, these 70s self-improvement cults like Synanon, for example, had very narcissistic founders like Evelyn, and would heavily instill group rituals and exercises of humiliation, sitting in circles for hours criticizing an individual's biggest insecurities and darkest secrets, largely reflective of the exercise at Tall Pines, Hot Seat, where they do the same thing, eventually building each other back up with these euphoric group hugs, sharing each other's pain and trauma. Another pivotal exercise we see that explores that same method of brutal self-reflection is the mirror room, where the student, Lila in this case, is relentlessly pushed to revisit and confront her darkest memories and deepest secrets. The neglect of her mother, the favoritism of her sister, and the highly likely event that she pushed her sister and let her drown in an impulsive moment of drunken resentment and frustration. And on this note, it's not completely clear whether Lila killed her sister because of a psychological concept called repression. It's an unconscious defense mechanism where the mind blocks distressing or traumatic memories from conscious awareness. The memories are still stored, but you don't actively recall them. So, as an audience member, it's up to you whether the mirror room revealed the truth of a murder or was simply a form of manipulation by Evelyn. But after all of these exercises and phases of conditioning, there's one final ritual, leap, the most symbolic of them all, which we must discuss in theme number 3, false revolution. As we learned from Stacy early on in the series, when a student has completed the final phase of the program, Ascend, they are put through a ritual ceremony hidden in a flooded area of the utility halls. And once completed, the student earns their freedom as a new member of the Tall Pines community. So the way it works is you're dipped below the surface like a baptism while Evelyn recites the following lines. You're lying on your back, crying out for your mother. She is standing, facing the wall. She has her back to you. A bell rings. Your mother turns to face you. She is silent, but her mouth is open wide. In her mouth is a door. And these lines are symbolic of Evelyn's philosophy and the way her programs work. To translate it into more literal terms, here's what she's really saying. You're a helpless child, crying for support from your parents. Your parents have betrayed you. But Evelyn intervenes. She's your new mother figure. And through deeply honest discussion, you're offered a way out to escape the issues of your past. But of course, when given this way out, you're now under the powerful hypnosis of Evelyn, living on to earn her approval and further guidance. A great example of this outcome is the character of Laura. A lot of Laura's history is left unanswered because she was conditioned to forget a lot of it. We can tell through her dreams that her parents enrolled her into Tall Pines as a troubled teen, and we learn in the papers her parents went missing. But it's left unclear who killed her parents and whether they're even really dead. Alex suspects Evelyn killed them to keep Laura close, but Evelyn in the finale claims Laura killed them herself. We'll never really know everything, but what we can string together is Laura was enrolled into the school by her parents and was the favorite of Evelyn's as a student, as we learn from Rebecca, who was her roommate, Rebecca Rabbit. And eventually Laura graduated from the program. And if I can theorize a little bit, I would say Evelyn did have Laura's parents killed to keep Laura as close to her as possible because she was Evelyn's favorite. Eventually, it seems Laura did have a growing motivation for her own independence separate from Tall Pines and Evelyn, which led her to meet Alex in a new city. However, her hypno-influenced deep attachment to Evelyn eventually did draw her back to Tall Pines, especially when Evelyn is buying her and Alex a brand new house. And we see Laura's inner conflict between seeking independence away from Evelyn and seeking approval from Evelyn, signified by a few different things. For example, agreeing to Evelyn's old exercises at dinner, or drifting into the water to replicate the leap ceremony, or shredding the toad in the waste disposal under the sink, which reminds her of Evelyn, who always has a toad in her office. And to take it a step further, the toad is really this symbol of Evelyn's omnipresence. Tall Pines is full of these toads, and Laura can't avoid seeing them or escaping the sound of their croak. Even we as the audience continue to hear the croak of the toad in the background throughout almost the entire show. The exact same way Evelyn lives in Laura's mind everywhere she goes. And what we really learn from this finale is, as much as Laura is developing her own independence and new form of leadership, she is ultimately just becoming the new version of Evelyn, the same way Evelyn was ultimately becoming the new version of Weldon. This is, of course, a commentary on how these cult-like practices evolved from the 60s and 70s through the decades to become these modern institutions that truly are doing so much of the same thing and haven't really improved over time to better help the child. And that idea of cyclical false solutions is beautifully symbolized by that sequence with Evelyn entering into her own hypnotherapy and walking through the doorway only to see another door and another door, leading endlessly to nothing. No true solution. However, what I admire is Mae isn't on any kind of high horse with their character of Alex. Even when Alex recognizes the cycle of abuse to trauma to conditioning to abuse to trauma to conditioning, from Evelyn's parents to Evelyn, and then from Weldon to Evelyn, and then from Laura's parents to Laura and Evelyn to Laura, and then to present day with the birth of Laura's baby. That alternate hypothetical ending is the ending Alex knows is right. Free himself and the baby from the cycle of trauma and conditioning, forming a new definition of family with Abby. But the idyllic fantasy of a traditional family life in a tight community that accepts him for who he is too good a reality to abandon. So Alex stays. Even Evelyn digs into this part of Alex's psyche in the finale, saying, "You love an idea of her because it makes you feel like a real man. Your fantasy of a nuclear family? She's not capable of it." And although that line of dialogue is extremely venomous, Alex knows there's truth to it because of the closed-minded world he's been shaped by and the life he's been conditioned to long for. Lila suffers from a similar feeling of longing for accomplishment and acceptance. At Tall Pine, she has an appreciative mother figure and a future that seems brighter than anything else she can picture elsewhere, even if she is brainwashed at the end of the day. The fate of the characters of Alex and Lila is a testament to how powerful this cycle can be. The only character who has broken free from the cycle is Abby, who Alex and Lila have always hoped and wished the very best for. Alright, this is my analysis. Thank you so much for watching, but before you go, I do want to add that even though this is a limited series, Mae did say that there could possibly be a second season of this show. I think there's still more story that could be told. I think we left all those characters sort of in crisis. But yeah, it was always pitched and imagined as a miniseries. So yeah, I'd say that by this quote that not all hope is lost for these characters, but I want to pass it off to you. I'd love to discuss any thoughts that you may have and answer any questions in the comments below. So thank you so much for watching again, and I'll see you later.